and welcome back to another episode of OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. We're coming back for a regional, so we have a lot to discuss, and of course a special guest later on. My name is Sierra Dawn, joined here by my co-host Joe Brown. Today's an exciting. You have that Emolga, don't you? But
I was waiting for you.
We'll get to the Emolga, but exciting episode we have coming up today.
Yeah, obviously exciting already. Thanks to exciting and Emolga, both starting with the E, right? So, yeah, we had a lot of fun in Peoria. Honestly, that was a TCG only event last season. So, most of us VG people, none of us went there, right? So that was my first ever time in Peoria, and we all had fun. We got a lot of fun things to talk about today.
Of course. So we'll be, of course, talking about this Peoria Regional as well. It was our first Regulation E event, our first official one. So kind of dive into that and what trainers were thinking leading into the event. Then, of course, LASE registration went live, so we'll touch on that. And then we have an interview with our, spoiler alert, Peoria Regional Champion in James Baek. So make sure to be tuning into that, where we're going to be having our predictions for Sacramento. We're going to include him in on that. And of course, talking all about his tournament run, his experience, and just his past with the game as well, because Baek is a very, very storied player. And to end it all off, of course, we have our question of the week. Very first thing before we get into anything, though, did want to announce that we do officially have a Discord. If anybody wants to be joining in on that. I love how Joe looks excited. Like this is the first time he's hearing of it.
It kind of is, to be honest. This is news to me. I'm very excited about it, regardless of if I was prepared or not. I'm happy at our outcome because I think it's something that we've really wanted to try to build up.
Yeah, so that will be in the description, the link to the Discord. So we can talk about Pokemon, talk about the events and stuff, team building, kind of just build a little community, because I already kind of feel like we have one, which is crazy because this still feels like such a new podcast. So thank you so much, everyone who's been tuning in and interacting and making it something that we can actually build a Discord this early on. So I'm excited about that.
No, honestly, I think, I don't want to toot our own horns too much here, but we're doing well. We're recording every week. We're going viral because people hate that we hate Penny. Like, there's a lot of things going on in OHKO's favor right now, and I do agree with you on our. It feels like we do have a little bit of a community building up. The same people, liking our tweets or replying to us or making comments on the YouTube upload, and seeing those seeing those returning names every week that make comments. It makes us really happy. So I'd love to interact with the people that want to interact with us and build up a little community for ourselves.
Yeah, like we look at all the comments on everything, and especially Twitter too. I think the only thing I haven't looked at the comments on was the Penny video, because at one point they just kind of got out of hand. So other than that, we do check everything, and the support and everything, it does mean the world, and really happy that people like this little project of ours.
Also, I'd have to pull up the YouTube video. I forgot the player, or I forgot the YouTube commenter. They said they used my Moon Room team on a Limitless tour and got top 4 in it. I was like, let's go. So we might have to, Sierra, this is the first time I'm asking you, we might have to make some like OHKO certified rental teams in the future.
I need to get so much better at team building.
But that's what the Discord's for.
We'll have
true. A community.
We're all together in the Discord building these teams. Okay. Well, I see. I'm picking up what you're putting down there. We'll have to see as a group collective how good we all are at building a team before we put an endorsement on this. But getting into Peoria Regionals, as you said, last season it was actually a TCG only event. I was actually going to go to Peoria to play TCG because I am a TCG player, though I haven't picked it up in a little bit just because I've been busy. And then that was one of the many events that I ended up getting sick right before, and I wasn't about to drive down to Peoria with COVID for a multitude of reasons, it being that I had COVID. So I had to skip out. Heard quite a few negative things about Peoria just in general, not from like an event standpoint, but location based. I do think it is kind of middle of nowhere, but overall Peoria ended up being quite fun.
Yeah, I do. I think going into the Peoria weekend, there was a lot of conversation like, well, it's at least it's not Fresno, right? Which is not the compliment that I think we were thinking it was at first. And now, after Peoria, that was my first time. The city is really nice. Like, we were very fortunate that our hotel was literally like what, a 3-minute walk or something like that from the venue. So maybe if we stayed somewhere different, it'd be a different perspective. But that little downtown area that we were in with the hotel, with some of the fun restaurants there, and the convention center being huge and more than able to accommodate all of the players in all of our games, and like still being spacious, honestly, like I was prepared to have war stories ready for the podcast, right? About what was going to go down, and all my expectations were absolutely like just like totally thrown away. And now I thought Peoria was really fun. Now it still is a downer that it's really tough to get to and really expensive, and it's not a major city. So I am still frustrated on that aspect, that we have regionals that are really impractical for a lot of players to get to. But if you were able to get there, it was a good time.
I'm also curious then too, like for myself at this event, I stayed in the hotel that was right at the convention center. The food place that we went to, this one place called Kenny's 2 of the 3
Shout outs.
nights, which was also just right there, and I thought the food is pretty decent, all things considered. And then for myself, I went to bed at like 9, 10 every night, so I didn't try to stay out. So a criticism I did hear from others was that places did actually close really early. So
Yes.
you were pretty limited in those options. So it was like a hotel lobby or having to kind of go out angle. So I could see if I was looking to try and like actually hang out with people like way late, that could maybe put a little bit of a damper on things like it did for others.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think that was a bummer too. We realized on the Friday night, because some people got in way later than us. Like you and I, we got in super early, so we went to the venue, hung out, got dinner at Kenny's, and had fun. But other people are like, I just want to get in. I want to get a drink at the bar, and like the bar was like closing in 15 minutes, and like it never was stayed out open later than 11. And I'm like, what are hotel bars for at this point? Like, I wonder this every like small town city we go to with the regional and the hotel we stay at, they close for no reason. Like all the restaurants close, right? So that means you have to go to the hotel bar and you make the money there. So if you're closing the hotel at the same time the restaurants are closing, who's making the nighttime money in Peoria? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out, because we were so bummed. We would have stayed in the hotel bar till like 2 a.m. on the Sunday night if they let us, but they're like, no, 11, get out of here. Like, all right.
They actually kicked y'all out?
No, they just like, they say you can sit here, but like you're not getting anything, so we just sat
Okay.
there.
I thought they actually like kicked you guys out of like the downstairs like area. I was like, wow. But no, I think like as well, it was very evident that Peoria was just a small kind of like Midwest town type beat. Like the Sunday night, normally we have a caster dinner, but we didn't have a big caster dinner this time around. So all the VGC casters, we all decided to Uber to this hibachi place. But it just, everything seemed very Midwest, if that kind of makes sense. We literally drive on the highway to then get to this Walmart parking lot that then has 10, 12, 15 different food options, all in this Walmart parking lot, just all in the circle around. And it's like, it, yeah, there's no better way to
If you
describe it,
wanted
honestly.
food, that was your option, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
how the town is built. Like, oh, I'm sure, like, oh, you want food? Okay, here is the block that food is in the town. You can go to Chili's or Hibachi or McDonald's. Like, if you want it, it's right here. So
The hibachi place was funny though, because the guy that was at the hibachi place, he saw that we were Pokemon people and he was asking to add us all on Pokemon Go out the gate.
Yeah, he was a very funny guy. I added him. I was like, okay, I'll add you back. And I'm already lazy enough on forgetting to remember to open people's gifts. So like, what's another rando sending me a gift that I'm not gonna open anyway, you know? But Hibachi was a lot of fun. I will say that to start the trip, so Butters and I, the GoCaster, we were on the same flight from Chicago, and then Len, who was on SME duty this weekend, landed at the same time as us. So all right, let's get our Uber over together. So we had this guy who's a Midwestern guy, really nice. And he hears about Pokemon convention, blah blah blah. He's I like Pokemon Go, and he opened it, and he was level 49, so he
Oh
was a higher level
wow.
than Butters as a caster, higher
Wow.
than Len, and Len plays every day, and he had 900 shiny legendaries or something like that. Like
Oh
it was
my
just crazy.
god.
His account was crazy. He showed you like I saw like 15 pink Kyogres and everything, and I'm like, oh my god. And he's like, yeah, I used to spend $100 a day on raids, like every single day. And I'm like, well, I guess I can see how you get that many shinies. So he made us feel like inferior Pokemon fans when he was just driving a cab around Peoria. He's a better Pokemon fan than we are.
My goodness. That's like though she didn't have this crazy Go account to make us all feel bad, but when we were all taking the cab to the airport, and our cab driver, it was
Oh
the
my,
tiniest cab, by the way, and there was four
oh
of us squished in there. I was sitting with my suitcase on my lap. There was no space. You had to like hold her bag in her purse or something.
yeah.
And she was talking about these Pokemon cards that she had like as a kid, and she's talking like this, like she's like, oh my god, I'm so excited, like she's going nuts. You guys talk Pokemon cards, and she was saying she wouldn't let us out unless we were giving her our Pokemon card. And I'm like, this is a car full of VGC. Like, we don't have Pokemon cards. Oh my god,
She was
it's
very
so
nice,
funny.
but she was not very. She's not very tech savvy. So everyone else got
Oh
out of the
my
car
gosh.
when we got to the airport, and I was the dad, right? I was sitting in the front seat, and I was like, all right, I'll pay. And so she didn't even know how to operate like the thing where you pay with a card in on people's phones and you put the info in. So she calls the company and tries to get the information, and then she called the wrong number, so then she found the right number and called that person, and it's like, I'll send you the login. So then we had to wait 2 more minutes to get a text message on the login, and she didn't know what to do because she said, I'm an Android person, I don't know this iPhone stuff, because her real phone was Android, her work phone was iPhone. So she just gave me her phone with the company's email login and password, like to log into the account for her to set up the pay for the tip. I was like, okay, whatever, how much it costs. And I was like, if I was like a bad person, I could have just like taken so much information, but like, it was, and I felt bad for you guys because you were standing waiting for me. Thank
We're
you.
chilling.
Like you just standing on the curb. Like I was in the car for at least another 10 minutes working with this lady, trying to just pay her money like, for the ride.
It was funny because Gabby and Rose, they went to the zoo, so they did their own trip to the airport, but like everybody's flights were kind of within like an hour to an hour and a half of each other,
Yeah.
so everybody was going at the same time anyways. It was a crazy, like, it was only Pokemon people at the airport, and it was only casters in production for the most part because everyone else had left earlier. But they're just like, why are you guys standing out here? And it's like, yeah, Joe Brown's still in there, paying. Like it's been like 10 minutes, but we
Yeah,
weren't in a rush.
she was a
So
lovely lady, but like not very tech savvy at all. And
yeah.
it would make sense since we did learn that as one of our fun facts for the weekend that Peoria is one of the top 10 most well-mannered cities in the country. So
Yeah. But you know what you missed at the Peoria airport?
no,
'Cause we're
what?
talking about everyone leaving within an hour and a half span, you being one of the first people. You missed the Peoria airport fire.
What?
That there was a fire at the Peoria airport. We're all sitting there.
There's
And
like 6 gates. What?
yes, I'm not kidding. So all these alarms start going off and these lights flashing. I have a video that's going to be in the vlog about it, and they're like, this is not a drill, like evacuate, this is not a drill, and like everybody's just sitting there like what do we like what
Yeah, is this like a drill or is it a
nobody was like moving,
drill? Yeah.
even though the thing was literally saying this is just a drill. And like I was sitting like getting food, and somebody had just gotten their like pizza, so we're like, are we smelling something? We just smell their pizza, and we're all just like sitting there like with our stuff while all these alarms are going off, and nobody was pressed whatsoever. They had to send like a bunch of security through, like, everybody to the international terminal, like trying to usher everybody out because nobody was leaving. So then everybody
That
used to
is
get up and
weird.
go to the other end, and then somebody comes through Because the kind of thought was like, hey, maybe it's like somebody pulled a fire alarm, whatnot, that happens. But then somebody like comes through and like everybody can go back. Like we located the fire. We're like, what do you mean located? But it turns out there was a fire in the bag room. So they called the fire department. We got to see the fire trucks outside. A bunch of firefighters like went through the airport as we all went and sat back down. So that was interesting. That
That's
happened.
That's hilarious, honestly.
Yeah, I've never, like, I fly a lot, and I've never even heard of that happening to anybody else who's flying a lot, and
Yeah.
let alone actually experiencing that for myself. So that was nuts. And it was so funny, the lack of urgency. Like literally nobody cared, which like in a real emergency could have been really bad, but it was kind of funny. Like we're all just kind of slowly walking through this airport with 6 gates, like, oh, I guess there's a fire. Like, I don't know.
That's
Good
so
times.
it's definitely one of the smallest gates I've ever seen. Like it was easy to get to. It's probably like 15 minutes from our hotel, but like, oh, why can't it just be Chicago or Milwaukee? You know what I mean? Like, why can't you just make life easier? Why does it have to be in Peoria?
Yeah, I don't disagree, but all that other stuff aside, I mean, one of the reasons it is Peoria, I imagine, is the venue size. Because, like, actually looking at the event itself, like, it seemed very well run. I know we're kind of
For sure.
sheltered, like, behind the scenes, but, like, on our end, stuff was good. We got new graphics this weekend, so stuff was really good for us. Like, our stream was looking crisp.
We were the first people to see the new graphics on there
Yeah.
on Friday, so that was a pretty cool experience. A great job by the production team, and it makes sense to change it up every year, right? New year, new me, new season. Having the different graphics there. I was bummed out on the prediction graphic because like it's different now. Like before, it's like the whole thing. It was all 5 of us was like the whole thing, and now it's like this. And then there's cool stuff on the sides, but now our predictions are closer. And like I was also way wrong on my predictions this
It
week.
seems like a you issue,
Yeah,
honestly.
so I was just bitter at the foot. I'm like, oh man.
Oh man. See, I knew that there was new graphics coming because especially too, like I hosted Pittsburgh. I knew that I was gonna be hosting Peoria, also hosting Sacramento, and the stuff that we get to run in between like segments and stuff. Like we can pitch ideas, and I have been pitching like you know that I can be annoying with this stuff. Like I'm like, these are all the ideas I want to do. These are all the assets like need build. Like this is what I want to run, and everything's been on like a hold because of this graphics package because there's
Yes.
so much to add, which 100% makes sense. So I'm just like, all right, I'm excited to get to Peoria and have all the graphics be done because then like the stuff that I can run for my segments can start being built out. So
I love
excited.
the new graphic. The pages with the. Remember we opened the show with the Ogre Pond forms and Blood
Yeah,
Moon
those look
Ursuludus.
so
Like
good.
those graphics were awesome, like really slick. So I'm happy with our updates. I think I want your take on the one hit
Ooh.
KOs and the top decks
Ooh.
because they're pretty slick, but do they happen too often? It's
Okay.
like we gotta save them for special like Masters Finals one hit KO, like save the drama, or should every one hit KO be a one hit KO?
First off, I think the graphics are hilarious, especially the top deck one.
Yeah.
The first time I saw this top deck graphic, cracked up. It is amazing. I do think that it can be used for any match, but save it for something that is impactful. Like if your Shifu is hitting a surging strikes into something that is going to very easily KO. The one hit KO doesn't really seem that crazy, but when there actually is a really impactful, like there was quite a few different occasions on broadcast this weekend that Fluttermane got swapped onto the field the same time that the Iron Hands on the other hand delivered a heavy slam. What is that about to do? Absolutely obliterate the Fluttermane. That is fantastic use of the one hit KO graphics. So I like it in that moment. The really underwhelming ones, it's like we can kind
Yeah,
of
that's
save
a good
it.
point. Like you gotta save it for the joy. Oh, he called the switch and now he gets punished for it, and now we celebrate with the cool spot.
Yeah.
And I think there were some of the moments with like Blood Moon or Saluna too, that some of those that's like a neutral normal hit doing 100% of somebody's health. That's like, oh, crazy. The other funny conversation we had with Len this weekend, because he was working on SME on the production line, was that what do we do with Urshifu Rapid Strike? What if Urshifu knocks something out from 100% HP to 0%? Because it technically is 3 hits, but it's not Bullet Seed or Rock Blast at the 2 to 5 hit ratio, whatever. It always does 3 hits, so it's a consistent, like, it was always going to do. So how do we count Urshifu in the 1-hit KO graphic scenario?
Literally when the Pokemon falls. If you think that was a significant enough KO,
I'm saying
throw
it's
the
3
graphic,
hits. It's 3
but
surging
it's
strikes.
one move. It's one move. It's one move. It's the same thing. It's getting into a potato type thing. Like, it is still, it's still just the one move.
I think I would play it, but I could understand somebody being like, well, actually, it was 3-hit KO, and
It just goes back to, if it's gonna be a 3-hit KO that like hits and is like underwhelming, don't fly the graphic. But like, if we were looking at a, let's say, population bomb, because even with like boost stuff, that could be like the 9 to the 10. That is still a significant KO when you get that last roll sometimes. And then that is then a 10-hit move. I would still play the 1-hit KO on that because it was one move. So, like, why wouldn't I for Shifu,
yeah, that's
know?
fair. I get what you're saying.
Especially, too, if you're saying the logic is, well, it'll always hit 3 times. Well, you click any other move and it'll always hit 1 time. It'll always hit, Just because it's not surprising.
I think that's fair. It's just like, the old boxing term where like a fight, like a 1-hit is the one punch that knocks somebody out, whereas Shifu is going 1, 2, 3 to knock somebody out. But I think that's a fair understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think about just the graphic in general? Because like, I see a lot of conflicting about that. It also, like, change is scary, and it is something that's like thrown over top of the screen. But I think it's fine. It's not like OCIC. OCIC on the backdrop, they threw the KO, but then they switched cameras to the stage, so it took away from the gameplay. That, I think, was bad, despite as how cool that looked in person. But this one, it doesn't take away from the gameplay, so...
I think this is the Goldilocks, right, scenario of it, where, like, Australia was fun with the KO, and the graphics looked awesome, but you had to change perspective to see it, and now this is, like, a little less intrusive, but it is keeping the same camera and just coming up on top of it. So that's why I like this as a middle ground thing. Overall, I like the graphic. It was funny because like we just didn't know about it when the first time it happened to me and Scott. So we were just like, okay, like we both like, it's like, all right, we saw this, right? Like we didn't.
Like, we're not crazy.
We heard the bell ring, right? We didn't make that sound up in our heads.
Gabby and Rose had the same reaction. Don't worry, it was not just y'all.
So it was really funny, but I think graphics like that can actually help build for the broadcast, for the perspective, because like you watch a football game or a baseball game and it's not just a completely empty screen, right? Like football has the yellow line for the first down marker, and sometimes they'll put like 4th and 5 on the side on the field and things like that. So when you can have graphics that actually make the visuals of it more than just the basic switch screen of the 2 grandmas cheering in the background, like, I think it actually does help.
Well, TCG, in VGC, it's kind of hard. Like, I don't really see how we would do it, because the only thing that we have reliable info on the screen at all times is the HP bars. But for TCG, they actually do have, like, the telegraphs and stuff, so they could, like, circle things or do lines and stuff. And I think it is really, really awesome. So I don't think there's too many ways you can implement that for VGC. But I did like the KO thing, that with the conditions that it's used for epic moments as well, properly timed, because I think on the first day there was a couple times where it was like watching it looked awkward, and I think that like second or 2 really matters.
Well, that's the Len Duel special, because on day two he got to control when it was because for anyone who doesn't know, the subject matter expert helps everyone else on the line with all things related to the game. Like, this game's about to end, he's about to win, this thing's about to happen, blah blah blah. They're about to go into game, like all those things to help the producers know what buttons to press. So on day 1, those 2 seconds, like you're talking about, like, oh, it's just a little too slow, of the knockout happening, Len having to say that's a 1-hit KO, the director would say run the graphic, everything like that. They're like, you know what, Len, why don't we just let you press the button? And then on day 2 they were way more slick, and every time it happened he knew, because he has the Pokemon brain, right as it happened. And yeah,
I noticed a big difference from that day 1 and day 2, which is funny then because when I was talking to Len and he explained like he got the button day 2, I was like, this makes so much sense. Like it
Yeah.
makes sense. Also, apparently, you feel really powerful when you get to click this one hit KO button. Like, it's something else when you actually get to
Psychologically,
SME?
yeah.
Yeah. But I thought overall that was fun. Another big change to broadcast stuff was actually the little award ceremony. Anybody who watched through and made it to the end. But for the winner and the finalists, there's actually a little ceremony on the stage before afterwards. So you bring the finalists up, you get a few words, and then they get their medal and stuff, and then same with the winner. So that was really interesting. It was very new to like run at a regional level, but I didn't dislike it.
It definitely makes it feel more exciting, right? Because it's like you have a crowd there that gets to, and you have the official aspect of a judge handing it to them, right? Like it feels, okay, this is Pokemon giving you the medal, and then you on stage asking questions and stuff is fun. So I think that's a change that we can see how we can make it more entertaining every time. But that's definitely something that makes it feel more big time to win a regional, that it's happening on stage instead of like after we do the interview, then they walk away, then they come back to get the medal later and stuff. Like it's more in the moment.
Yeah, and I think too, like it'll be better going forward because like the one kind of weird thing, which I think was across all games, was understanding the flow. So I know it's a judge that's supposed to put the medal over the finalist and the winner's head, but then they couldn't find a judge, but then the judge isn't properly prepped, and for us, like we're kind of thrown in, the players have never seen this before. So it was like this really weird, like, hey, we're doing this live, but like nobody really knows like what's going on except for me. And even then it's like, well, we'll see. So it'll be better like going forward because
For
these
sure.
players have now like seen what goes on. The judges have seen what goes on. Anyone else who's stepping into this role knows how it goes. So it should only get better. And I think for the VGC end, it ended up being like pretty good, all things considered. So
And yeah,
yeah.
Luca was a great sport, right? Getting second
Yeah.
place. He's really happy, really, friends with James, and we know James has won this before, so he's comfortable on camera. But did you see on the TCG end, the poor TCG judge tried like 6 times to go for the handshake, and the guy was just so excited that he won, and he just kept missing it, and he's like, fits. He just gives it like, well, you know what? He's excited. I get it. Like I felt it was so cringy, but so like funny at the
It
same
was
time.
so funny. Did you hear Jeremy laughing in the mic? That happens. He goes,
Yes, because Jeremy was on stage doing it, and he sees him just get completely shafted from the handshake. And classic giggler Jeremy Jalen,
yeah,
loves to giggle at the worst times. Continues that
yeah,
reputation.
yeah. That's what I was thinking about with like, yeah. It's like everyone will get better at them. So there's always hiccups with live shows in the lounge, at the cast, and anything. So that was just funny, but it was. I think it is a cool change going forward. But looking at Peoria itself, actually talk about the event. This was our first Regulation E event, and I have to kind of say, I think I was a little underwhelmed by the Reg E meta that we got to see out of the gate, at least in our stream matches, because everything that did well on broadcast seemed very old, except for the fact that there was the Ogerpon on the team.
I think it's not untrue that a casual person, if they came in and said, I don't like Regulation E, it's choose your Ogerpon plus 5 Pokemon, I think that is a fair criticism. Maybe it's not exactly accurate, right? But it kind of did feel like even on James's base winning team was 5 Regulation D Pokemon and then Wellspring Ogerpon. So for somebody who wanted to see Milotic and Empoleon and all of these other Pokemon that were introduced in Snorlax, right? Blood Moon or Saluna, if you wanted to see all these new returning Pokemon, Politoed, Ludicolo, like if that's what you wanted to tune into PR for, you didn't get that. We tried our hardest. We did. We said they got a fifth Fezandipity. This person's got a monkey. This guy's got an Okidoki. Like we tried to put some fun things on the stream, like Screamtail team, right? So Peter Chen always has the really fun stuff with Screamtail and Staraptor. Like we tried our darndest to get some fun off meta strategies on stream, but they really just did not perform well whatsoever, which tends to make you believe that it's not a format that is open to those off meta strategies as we once thought it might have been.
Yeah, because like looking over the teams for the event, like Justin Knox, who lost twice on stream, getting O2'd, was playing this Clefairy, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, Okie Dokie team, and he got 5th place in the event. Obviously, like, team is performing, right? We're looking at Leonard Craft III, who brought Dusclops as the Trick Room center with the Blood Moon Ursaluna and had the weakness policy
That was
to
so awesome.
self-proc his Blood Moon Ursaluna to then hyper voice everything. That was awesome. You got 8th place. Like, Peter Chen, how you were saying with the Screamtail Star Raptors. Like, I think he's maybe the only person that actually plays Star Raptor, and he does it well. He got 10th place, but he also, I believe, got O2'd on stream, right?
Yep.
So, like, it's like seeming like Regulation E is a lot more fun than we were led to believe on broadcast.
Yeah, obviously we can't see how every match is going out there, but like obviously the Pheasantipity beat Joe Ugarte at some point, right? So he wasn't ready for however that matchup played out. So there is potential for these off meta or unpopular, let's say, Pokemon to put in work, and like Peter getting 10th, Justin top 8, Leonard top 8 as well. But Justin actually the only Ursaluna that lost on stream this weekend, and he lost twice to the same person, because when Leonard played, he just dumpstered on stream with the weakness policy set. And then our first match of the day of the whole weekend was with Marcos, with Moxie, winning his set with Blood Moon, Ursaluna, and Sinistra, and all those really fun things. So like that's a Pokemon that people were hyping up, like, man, that's cool. And I don't know if people haven't been able to soft reset quick enough, since it takes forever to try to soft reset for 0 attack, 0 speed Ursaluna. And they don't have the Pokemon yet from the DLC. But I was surprised that pretty much every time we saw it on stream, it was a complete stomp, that it was so good, yet it was not very prevalent in the overall meta whatsoever.
Well, it's only like a 50% stomping on stream, because even if you're looking at Leonard Craft III and you're looking at Marcos, Justin Knox still did lose twice with it
that's
on
just the
stream.
one guy to the same matchup,
but that which is really unfortunate. I feel bad, like, where I'm like, yeah, he allowed to know, but like that was when we saw him on stream, it was actually such a dreadful matchup. Like, I do feel bad, but like it's like the 50-50, but obviously if Blood Moon Ursaluna isn't winning, like what we get to see on stream is only a snapshot. I didn't really think the Blood Moon Ursaluna going into it was absolutely too crazy. I think it's just situationally one of the right Pokemon, and obviously if you're wanting to go for it, you have to commit to some sort of Trick Room mode that's going to be 2 or 3 of your Pokemon to then be having this mode. And then if we're looking at a team that's like a lot more balanced with like, you got your Ogre Pond of choice, you got your Hands, you got your Rillaboom. Like, you start running out of slots to have this mode.
Yeah, I agree. The Trick Room is in a spot right now that you kind of have to commit to the bit, right? You can't just it can't be a Tail Room team right now. I just don't feel like, maybe someone will prove me wrong, obviously. But it seems like it's a team that you can't try to be middle ground and, this matchup I'll play this way, this matchup I'll play the other ways. No, I got to commit to this style with the weakness policy like Leonard had, or the different things. And maybe selfishly, I hope people stop running Blood Moon Ursaluna, because I continued to trip over myself every time and was saying like Blursaluna. Like, I don't know why, I just hated myself. The middle of the matches, like I'd be like, and the Blood Moon, and like I would just trip up its name. So if nobody plays it, then I can't look silly on broadcast anymore.
There's always like that one word that's like, it's just, I can't remember any for VGC that tripped me up, but I joined in on a Pokemon Unite broadcast a couple of weeks ago. I was filling in. I got to cast with Zoinks and Deuce, which is a lot of fun. One of the objectives that you take is Regieleki. Mm-hmm. And I could not, on broadcast, say Regieleki objective properly. That would actually, like, so I kept saying Regi objective or something, like, I don't know. I kept tricking it up, but, like, I gave it about 6 or 7 honest different goes. I could not get it right
That's funny.
once. The one for VGC that I know I got, like, people were hating on me for coming out of Players Cup was Max Phantasm, because I can't, like, it always,
Oh, you were
and, like,
mixing it up?
it's always a little mixed up, and I said it wrong every single time in a different way, and people made fun of me, and then other people were like, just leave her alone. Like, she obviously can't say the word. Like,
Yeah.
chill.
Well, we have a new one this weekend with the
Blood
little
Moon
bug,
Rush.
the little bug. I don't even
Oh,
want to say its
I don't
name.
even. All right, I'll take the bullet because I said
Purple
it quite a few
Volbeat.
times. Purple Volbeat. That one isn't even like it. You're saying it's like you're tripping up over it. It's just whether people want to say it properly or not. Because the
Right.
what we thought was Illumise was actually Illumise, which we actually saw as part of Regulation. I did not expect this one. We actually saw that as part of Regulation E. First off, our first stream match, we got to see Marcus on with it. Took a 1-2 loss to friend Justin Tang. And then Carson Confer actually got like 17th spot, I believe it was, in day 2 with the Illumise was as well. I think they're running the same team. So crazy.
Yeah,
But yeah, that one had people divided on
at one point you
pronunciation.
tweeted about, like, when did you ever think you would see 5 Illumise on the Pokemon stream
Yeah,
with all
because
the
Marcus
plushes?
had 4 Illumise plushes, and then he had one on the team, and it showed the team preview, which I thought was funny. And Pokemon showed that tweet on air too. So
Yes, they did. I didn't know if they would or not, since, like, you were already working there, so I know sometimes they're like, oh, well, we don't need to promote that. Let's promote other people. So I'm happy they did actually promote yours, because it was a banger.
it was a good tweet. It was a good tweet. That was the second time I think a tweet of mine's made it on the broadcast. The first one, and I could be wrong. There might have been one from last year. I can't remember, but they don't pull caster tweets too often. You are right on that. But obviously, I didn't cast Worlds. And when Lou and Lee were on the desk, they had some blue Gastrodons, and I was a bunch of them. And I was like, slug infestation at Worlds. Like, where's the pink slug, though? And I posted that, and they did show that one on broadcast. So I thought that was funny, too.
Yeah, my first time was actually, I think, the only time I've been featured on a tweet, like a hashtag play Pokemon social plug, was on the Go broadcast. Actually, it was Butters and Caleb, and it was like one of my tweets from just over. I think it was after NAIC or something, and they showed that, or during. I can't remember where we were at the time, but they just talked about it. They're like, oh, Joe's a great guy, and I tried to give him some help on his Go Battle League team, and he didn't like it. And I was like, oh my god, they're throwing a dirty laundry out there just because I didn't like Butters'
Oh, no.
a 1-1 sand slash spread that he was trying to give me.
Yeah, I am wrong. My first tweet, and I forget what the tweet was, but it wasn't on the Pokemon VGC podcast. I think they put it on Go or TCG, and it caught me off guard because I didn't use the hashtag play Pokemon. If you ever want your tweet featured, you have to use the hashtag play Pokemon.
You have
and
to.
I inquired about it. I was like, oh, it was fine that they aired it. I don't care. But I was like, oh, I didn't. And they're like, well, you're one of our casters. We figured we were good. I was like, you're right.
Yeah, we don't need permission. Yeah, you're right here.
Yeah.
So.
And I was like, yeah, okay. But yeah, that was the first one. I can't remember what the tweet was. I tried to get the OHKO tweet about, this is where we can talk about the Emolga. I did try to get them to air this tweet about the Emolga. So if anybody remembers that World's prediction, I finally paid up, and Joe has himself this shiny new Emolga plushie.
Well, he's not shiny, because shiny Emolga is like a brown color.
Sorry.
But,
I meant like shiny knee.
I know. Yeah, it took a while, but the wait was well worth it. Because if we just went to Pittsburgh and I just chose some like rinky-dink sitting cutie just because we wanted to get it over with, I'm happy with the patience is a virtue for a reason. So Emolga is one of my favorite Pokemon. I'd have to like do a test of all of them. I think it's probably still my top 10 favorite Pokemon, because I remember in Black and White, like it was like the Pika clone is immune to Earthquake. That was like the most shocking thing in the world, because that was the one thing every Pika clone of every generation, it was still just a mono electric type. So Emolga was really the first one to break out of that. Then you had Dene and Togedemaru and whatever, more Pico, right? So yeah, Emolga is one of my favorite Pokemon for sure, and it's just so cute. He's sleeping.
He's winking. He's not sleeping.
Either way.
It's like, yeah, I have the same. So first off, the Peoria stands that they had going on, they brought out everything.
Top notch.
So there was I could have gone broke than I already am at these stands. There was so much good stuff. So in that same style, I actually got a Mew plushie, the same thing. It's like hugging and it has the little wing. There was a Piplup of the same one that they put out after I bought the Mew, but I wouldn't be able to bring them both home. So I now know of a Mew that a Piplup I'm missing from my collection. But there was so many good plushies there. You know what they also had? I was excited about? They had the Slitherwing hair clip.
Oh, yes. You were big into that one.
Yeah, so I managed to get that. I also got this gold Butterfree big hair clip, like one that you can put a bun in. And then I got these 3 Tatsugiri hair clips that I wore.
That was the coolest one, in my opinion.
Oh, thank you. I was proud of that. I was like, which Tatsugiri am I going to wear? And then I was like, screw it. We have all the Tatsugiris. Yeah. All of them, right? We're on a Pokemon broadcast. Nobody's going to make fun of me for this, but no, like they did there was a lot of plushies to pick from. They even had like the new Ogerpon forms. They had the Loyal 3 plushies. Like
they did. I didn't even see that. They had like new plushes. Like
yeah.
Oh
that
my
very
god!
First
I wish I looked
stand.
further.
I literally told you.
I don't remember this. This is fake news.
Yeah. Whatever, but yeah, no, the first stand, which was also the one the Slitherwing clip, because the Slitherwing clip is brand new. But yeah, they had absolutely brand new stuff from Japan. So how they got it so fast, I don't know. But I was
that is
very
like
surprised.
Supersonic speeds. Like the game just came out a couple weeks ago, the DLC.
Yeah, no, it was insane. The Loyal 3 are just as ugly in plushie form as you would expect, by the way. Like
Dude, yeah. Sierra is like the most like Pokemon design hater I've ever seen. Like she hates Quaxley, you hate the Loyal 3. Like there's so many Pokemon you don't even temper your feelings on some of these Pokemon.
Are you just saying that because I went through all the sitting cuties pulling out each one that I thought was ugly? The Raticate, by the way, terrible.
Oh, that
Raticate, not much better.
That Raticate needed a dentist appointment for sure. That was not a good look for Gary's Raticate.
That was a very bad sitting cutie, but just
you call it like you see it. I respect it.
Call it as it is. But the one big plushie that's also pretty new to being out, that a ring toss for a giant Wailord. Yes. You actually got to play the ring toss. I went over to play the ring toss, so I had to get pulled for a segment because this would be like when you're the host of an event, you don't actually really get to explore around too much. And by that, I mean ever. So I had to do a segment and I ran over to the Wailord toss like 2 minutes before it closes and somebody had already won the Wailord. So then I was like, there's no point. So tragic.
Yeah. But well, so Vince in day 2, like they like having the casters have interaction in the venue. It's something they've done for a long time. So where were we, Milwaukee, I want to say, where we had the original one with the Squirtle toss or the Spheal toss where you can win a Mega Blastoise if you landed it in a certain ring. So like he has the casters because obviously casters, we have a lot of people know who we are. So if they see us having fun playing the side events and playing the side games, then maybe they're more inclined to give it a shot. And we always have fun with it. So I know Gabby and I have been doing them for a while. So we knew when this was started, the judges were like, all right, let us know when you want to go over there. I think it started at 10:30 or something. And this was way harder than any other one that they have had before. So you had rings, right? Just little circles. And then maybe, 10 feet away, there was a whole bunch of little circles spread out over a flat surface. And on those had different things like a TCG pack or a Funko Pop of a Pokemon or a deck box or something like that, right? And so you had 3 tries to land, and anything that you landed a ring on, you got to keep. Now, the carnival aspects of this, of like the carnival games always win, is because a lot of the things, like I was gunning for this Pidgeotto Funko Pop that just looked awesome. And it's very hard to put they say like put a square peg in a round hole. It's very hard to do the inverse of put a circular, ring on a square object. Because you didn't just have to land on it. It had to go around it, which is really hard to do. So I got it, my first hit, I got it like, let's say 80% on. And like, this whole line, everyone's like freaking out. And then I just kept all my other tosses. I did 2 games worth of tosses trying to hit it. and I was just trying to hit it off of its square instead of actually trying to land onto it, because if it fell off, then my ring would have been more likely to be on top of it and I would have won it. But unfortunately I ran out. So it was still a fun time, but that's like, they know what they're doing. They know they didn't have to give away too many of the highly valuable things.
One day I'll be able to do the ring toss. That's
And then if you did
day.
win, you get qualified for the end of the day to try for the Wailord plush, because they were giving away the Wailord plush to one winner at the end. So
one day I'll get to do ring toss, and one day I'll have a giant Wailord plushie. Those are my two. Yeah, one day. But
well, Rosemary's already got the Wailord plush. Did you see?
I know.
Did you see? I can't tell if Wailord is big or Rose is small, because when she jumps in the
Why
photo,
not both?
yeah, when she jumps
It's
on
both.
the photo, I'm like, oh my god, she could use that as a bed. She could like take a nap on that Wailord.
I tweeted out about the Wailord, and quite a few people replied to me with photos of their own giant Wailords, and I have never been more envious. And my giant Piplup, I think, needs a friend. So
That's
I
fair.
don't. Also, 2 seconds.
Oh god.
Roll in my chair.
For everybody listening on the audio forms, Sierra's rolling away and returning.
I have what was previously thought to be the giant Wailord. It is no longer.
It's like when
it's
newly discovered Pokemon in the Kitakami decks.
But this Wailord is pretty decently big, but this is old generation big Wailord. So now it's little Wailord, and there's a bigger one. So
it's been power crept out for sure.
Yeah, actually. So that's tragic, but it is what it is.
What it is.
Yeah. But Peoria, overall, a fun time. I'm excited to see Regulation E kind of move on and kind of where things will end out. Hopefully staying with some of the fun, unique teams. We're getting Sacramento literally just around the corner. So I'm hoping maybe then we'll be able to see the cool things do well on stream. That's it. Obviously they did well to some capacity. I want to see them do well on tape.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're going to, I'll just throw it out there. If you're going to choose Pheasantipity, if you're bringing it to a regional and then you get pulled because you have Pheasantipity on your stream.
Bring the Pheasantipity!
And you're getting a 2-0 stomped anyway. You might as well bring out the Pheasantipity on the team. You could be, I'm the first person that brought Pheasantipity on the official stream. You'd have that little notch in your belt, but.
All right,
just
for reals, if you get pulled for broadcast, do whatever you think is your best chance to be winning.
Yep, we both agree with this statement.
So there you go. And if it's not bringing the Pheasantipity, we'll be disappointed. But bring the Pheasantipity would be cool. It would be the next step. We haven't seen the Pheasantipity yet, but
I don't know if we'll ever see the Monkey Dory. Do you think we'll get a Monkey Dory match?
Nope, absolutely not.
It is tough out here for Monkey Dory.
It ain't happening, but yeah, Sacramento's coming out. Another thing that also happened today is LASC registration went live. So we're both going to be at LASC. We're going to be casting though, so that one doesn't pertain to us as much. But yeah, congratulations to those who got a slot. It sold out very fast, apparently. Everyone's trying to go to Brazil.
Well, yeah, as we have to say now every time, congrats on winning day 0, because that is what registration is turned into. And I know there were tweets about the system and whatnot, and as it currently stands, there really is no perfect system for what we can do, right? You can't make a thing that's I check IP addresses to make sure only Latin American players get an advantage, because then someone's going to make some VPN to put their thing in Brazil. You'll have all these weird workarounds to whatever solution Arcanine and Pokemon comes up with. So I guess it's a good problem to have that we're so popular that we have more demand than supply, but it also does stink if you're one of the people, like our friend Juancho. He tweeted out he tried really hard to get into those waves and really wanted to go, and then you get your heart up on something and now you have to just watch at home. It's a bummer.
He messaged me asking if there was VGC slots available, and he would do the little game slot, but no, it was just a stack for VGC too, so it'd be like that. But I'm hoping it won't be an immediate fix, but hoping as things sell out really quickly that it's then, all right, well then venues get booked so far in advance, so we'll never have an immediate like turnaround. But then maybe next year's like we can slowly like start building up based off of how fast the events sell it now. So I don't know, can hope.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm excited. Like it's my first time. I don't know if you went to an LAIC before, but
No,
yeah. So
my first time.
this will be our first time. There's gonna be some good stories that come out of it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited that we got picked for this event because I'm excited to work LAIC. And it's actually been a while since we've had an LAIC for Pokemon VGC because, like Peoria, the last LAIC was TCG only. So,
Well, it had Go too. It was just anti VGC, not
anti VGC. But this actually leads in quite well to our special guest of the day, who is actually the defending LAIC champion.
Oh,
Funny to say that when it's been so far since it was back in Ultra Series. But we have defending LAIC champion as well as the Peoria Regional champion, James Baek, that's going to be joining us on the podcast. So give us 1 second. We're going to get him. We'll be right back. And we are back with the one and only winner of the Peoria Regional Championships, James Baek. James, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing post Peoria?
No problem. Just been spending like the whole day resting. I didn't get that much sleep after Peoria. I woke up at 5 a.m. Peoria and didn't go to bed until like 5 p.m. the next day because of flights and roads and yeah.
Oh my god, that is way too much time to go without.
It was weird because I tried to take a nap in like the car, but the thing is like my mind was mentally exhausted, but my body couldn't physically sleep. So like just could not sleep at all.
That's always the worst too. After an event, like you're just like, just let me sleep. But
I think I was too much in the zone. I literally felt like I was still in the zone.
Yeah, like the adrenaline probably got to you, the excitement and everything. But like, if that was me in the car, I would have been like, turn the music down. The champ's trying to rest. That's what I would have said.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. The champ, you're winning Peoria Regional, second regional of the season now. That's your Worlds invite as well. So that's, I mean, I feel like for you, it wouldn't have really been a question whether you qualified or not for Worlds, but regardless, like you kind of ripped that Band-Aid off early. So that's kind of a little bit of a relief, right?
I mean, yeah, this is like my third year where I had basically the auto invite like really early into the season. Obviously, this one's going to be a bit later than usual, but hey, like it's just nice to have it out of the way, I suppose.
Yeah, didn't somebody tweet that you were like allergic to the CP bar threshold because you just keep qualifying through other means?
Yep, 2022 qualified through 2019. Same thing with 2023, and then 2024 was this regional.
I like how you're saying too, like, yeah, I'm kind of qualifying a little bit late, guys. I know it's only a month into our regional circuit. It took me this long to get my invite. Sorry. That's exciting stuff, though, especially too going into Peoria because you didn't really have a team until before Friday, right? Especially too with new regulation.
I didn't have a team till like Friday, like 9 p.m.
Oh my goodness!
Didn't you do that once? I think there was another regional you won in the past that it was like really late to the last second that you like showed up with a team. Because that was in like that era, that Ultra Sun Ultra Moon era. I think you won like 2 events in a row or something, and you were just rolling up to any venue you walked into. Like you were just instantly either winning or top cutting. Like you were just unstoppable in that era. So like, do you like waiting till the last second to finalize a team, or is it just unnecessary stress added to your day?
I don't usually wait. It's actually funny because I think it overlaps. It was Daytona Regionals, and it was actually like the first regional of this Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, the Ultra Series. So it's just like early metas are just always really weird because there's so much to account for, and it's really hard to pick a team that you think will actually do well in an event. Actually, like when I picked my team the morning of, I kind of realized that I was weak to like a lot of the common meta teams, and I'm like, hopefully I can just get points or at least dodge the matches, but we'll see.
You did more than that, yeah.
Just a little bit more too, because your record through was just absolutely insane. So like looking back at your performance, like, is this team actually just cracked, or did you just like miss a lot of those things along the way? Because I know, like, even looking at finals and stuff, like, this team just seemed to be really good against quite a bit out there.
I think it was kind of both, where like I think I have a lot of experience playing like Tornadus, having Intimidate and Setup. Like it really felt like kind of similar to where I played Xerneas Kyogre back in the day, Torn Ogre, which is funny because Ogre Pawn instead of Kyogre, I guess, but like
Yeah.
really it was Urshifu that was just dominating as the water Pokemon here. But it was kind of a similar vibe where I was able to get like Tailwind, some really good offensive tools, had Intimidate Arcanine. I could also do a lot of damage. Golden Gold was like my setup mon this time, being able to set up nasty plots as a secondary mode. So it felt like pretty comfortable for me for the most part. Felt like I had tools for every matchup. It didn't feel like it was unnecessarily broken or like that I was just instantly winning matchups, but it did feel like I did have like a lot of great modes and a lot of different options that I could just play into my opponents.
Well, I even said it on the broadcast when we were in the lounge that you're essentially like Tornadus is your first partner Pokemon. Like it's like iconically attached to you with all the Torn Ogre teams that you've played over the years. Like you've probably earned, I don't even know, 2,500, 3,000 championship points worth of of points with a Tornadus on your team of 6, right? If you really added up all of the years, all of 2019, you had that Torn Ogre team you brought to every event, Worlds. Like I feel like it's kind of like your Pokemon I think of when people say like name a James Beck Pokemon. I think of Torn.
Okay, maybe 2000, 3000 might be too much. Mainly because 2019 I hit over 2000. Most of it was Drew, I think, Torn Ogre as the team, but like my Worlds results were mainly like Torn. Like I didn't bring it on in the 2023 season till Worlds, and like Worlds doesn't award CP. So if Worlds award CP, obviously.
I mean, 2,000 is still a lot. If it's not 3,000, it's still 2,000 is a lot.
But yeah, Tornadus is still like something I'm really comfortable with. It took some adjusting for the new speed mechanic. I'm still not a big fan of like how the new Tailwind works, but like it's obviously like really strong, but it's kind of complicated away from how I like to play it. I like 2019 Tailwind, like the old Tailwind style, but like it still is like okay.
All right, real quick explanation for those watching just getting into VGC, like the old Tailwind versus the new Tailwind that you're talking about.
So if you don't know, in Generation 8, we ended up having dynamic speed affecting the field. So basically, where Tailwinds in Gen 7 or prior, it would take a turn to set up, but the effect wouldn't actually happen on the field until the turn after. And in Generation 8, they changed that so it would be instant dynamic. And with Tornadus Prankster ability, you have like the instant Tailwind, and then your partner would instantly be able to move first normally. So that's usually how like this new Tailwind works. And obviously it might sound better now in Gen 8 because obviously you get that extra turn. It's dynamic. It's pretty incredible, but it can be a little bit sometimes like sometimes you want to just click it immediately, but sometimes you want to use it and save it strategically. And I usually am more of like the save it for strategic and try to get positioning. I felt like it was actually easier to do it with the old mechanic, at least for me. Like obviously this one's easier to abuse, but I felt like positioning wise, like it was more comfortable for me to use it because it required more skill, I think, in previous gens.
Yeah, I think the like dynamic speed, I've always argued, I've had conversations with people, I think the dynamic speed change is probably the most significant change that like Game Freak has ever made to competitive. Like sure, the attack and special attack split and the different typing changes they made and adding fairy types, all those things, they're all important. But the ability to not have to just protect every turn you click Tailwind like you did back in the day, because you can actually take advantage of it now. Like back in the day, you used to only get 3 of those 4 Tailwind turns, right? Because effectively you had to fake out or you had to protect in that other slot to stay safe. And it's kind of made, I don't know how you think on it, James, but it's kind of made prankster Pokemon better than I think they ever intended. Because I think with Whimsicott and Torn and Illumise and all these other things, that now a lot of Sword and Shield was basically what is your prankster Tailwind setter, and then what is your 5 other Pokemon.
Yeah, I think it created probably like a lower I would call it like skills. It's not ceiling, it's skill floor where it's like easier for anyone to get into, but at the higher level, like when you really need to like make sure every tailwind turn counts, like most players, you want to set it up, you're just going to go straight for the damage. And sometimes like it'll work for certain teams, but in some cases, like I want to delay the turn like later and keep the advantage, especially in the tailwind mirror. So it's always something that I always have to keep in mind when setting up tailwind with Tornados now.
Well, it's not just Steven the Tailwind too, but paralysis, right? Because now we can just prankster, do whatever, slow something down. I'm just thinking of the flutter mains getting paralyzed, so you can then go and outspeed. But imagine then too, that would have been way different than back in the day looking at T Wave.
Yeah, that is still a really big change. Like even like stuff like Regieleki Electroweb, Iron Bundle Icy Wind, it is one of the biggest changes that we could really see. So the only thing it really does affect is Trick Room, and thankfully that has negative priority. But overall, I think dynamic speed is probably one of the biggest changes. I do agree, Joe. I'm for the better or for the worst. I can't really say, but yeah.
It's just different. It's not better
It's
or
different.
worse. It's just, that's the things we have to deal with in VGC, right? Where at some points, Reggie Lucky's so dominant, and then Urshifu's so dominant. And before them was Xerneas, and before them were the Primals, and then before them was other super dominant strategies. So I feel like we have this cycle in VGC where we have really dominant strategies and dominant Pokemon, and they're not necessarily better or worse than prior generations of VGC we dealt with. There's just a different let's say difficulty factor that we have to deal with now. Instead of Landorus on every team, it turned into the Primals, it turned into Xerneas, it turned into Zacian, right? But we will always have those overarching really dominant meta Pokemon.
Yeah, well, I'm curious then too, James, because you talked about like the parallels from the older team that you used that had the Torn and this Kyogre, and kind of how it's similar enough to this team that you're playing that you were really familiar with. Was that something that you kind of set out to be building in that sort of way? Or were you just like, okay, and you start kind of building along and it's like, wait a second, like this looks a little familiar.
Not really. If anyone wants a short version of basically how I built this team that I ended up using, there were two teams I was really considering, which is this team that ended up getting first seed, as well as like just won like a Japanese, I think it was a Terra online tournament, like a Terra Square, if I'm not mistaken. And it was first seed. It won the entire event. It basically had these same six, except instead of Iron Hands, it was Rillaboom. And then the other team that I was really considering, which was the Regulation D team, actually, it was the Luca Lucario Top 16 World Championship team. And I got to cast him play another tournament. And I saw a lot of cool options that team could do. So it was always interesting to me that like Rain with Choice Scarf for Shifu, I thought with Golden Go could be really good. And then when I saw this team, I'm like, maybe I can fuse a few of the options and change some of the sets, and it could perform still really strongly, because they're two teams that like probably stood out the most to me that I like was interested throughout my like looking at teams and trying them out. So ended up doing that and just making a few slight changes to the EV spread, adding the Iron Hands, and yeah, it ended up working out.
I think that's pretty interesting that you were willing and looking at a team that was doing well in Regulation E that was just a Regulation D team, because I've always like given you credit in 2019 with your Torn Ogre team, where for most of the year you ran that without a Mega in Ultra Series, right? And everybody else was like, well, I have to have a Mega because we're allowed to have one Mega Pokemon on the team, and you got top 4 of the World Championships without a Mega Kangaskhan or Rayquaza or anything. So do you not feel, because I see your only new Pokemon on the team is Ogerpon Wellspring, it's not like you have a bunch of Regulation E DLC Pokemon on your team there, so do you not feel, I guess, not threatened, but like kind of the way everyone else feels, like I have all these new toys that we can use and take advantage of? Like you just see a Pokemon that was good in Regulation C, if I still think it's good, it doesn't matter that there are new Pokemon that have entered into the meta.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw a huge decrease in usage, at least through the grassroots tournaments, of like Pokemon like Tornadus and Urshifu, for instance. And let's be real, those Pokemon are really good. I don't know why they dropped so much in usage, but they were pretty much really strong options throughout the tournament. They helped me sweep a lot of my opponent's teams. And regardless, like it doesn't matter regulations, if these Pokemon still have their roles, they're still going to be able to do well at the end of the day.
Looking at your team too, I mean, obviously, bringing it back to our Peoria results here, I thought was really interesting was because a huge thing going into this event we talked about were these ogre ponds and which one was going to be the top usage. A lot of people thought that it could be Hearthstone, the Hearth Flame that was winning. And anyone who kind of had the Urshifu Rapid Strike on their team was then like, all right, well, I need to have this fire coverage so I can have fire, my fire, water, grass. But then you have your Urshifu and you still have your water ogre fawn, which I thought was really interesting because then it's just like you're all in on this, right?
Yeah, so like the original team had the Rain Dance Torn still. It had the Choice Scarf for Shifu, and it did have the Water Ogre Pond as well. And I think like one thing is like they fulfill a bit of different niches where Urshifu is able to like clean up games or just threaten a lot of damage with the Rain Dance plus the Choice Scarf Surging Strikes. While the Water Ogre Pond could be a secondary attacker in Rain, a lot of its main goals were like beating like Chi Fluttermane, which is like a pretty big one. One of the big ones that I really wanted a checklist on my team was like dealing with side spam and side spam like hard trickery with Sun. And the big one here for me was like Tornadus Rain Dance plus the special defense you get with the Water Ogre Pond was able to like do extremely well into that team. So that is the main reason I also really liked Water Ogre Pond. Follow Me also like really synergized well with the Golden Goat, but it could also be another offensive tool with Urshifu. So I felt like that was like a really cool option that I saw this team from Japan really utilize well. So that is why I decided to have the Water Ogre Pond on this team. And like double water wasn't too bad, especially since like it added the grass typing. I didn't have a Real Boom, so I didn't have like super overlapping weaknesses. And yeah, it was still pretty strong.
Did you get nervous running Power Whip again? Because
yes, thank you,
we
Sierra.
saw how that went down in Pittsburgh.
You were crazy, James.
So I think Pittsburgh kind of opened up a new mindset for me where no matter what, it's like, okay, like sometimes like when you run like Pokemon like Iron Bundle, right, you get scared of like clicking Hydro Pump. So you start clicking like Freeze Dry or Icy Wind just to get guaranteed chip and not like risk the Hydro Pump miss. But I kind of realized like if you kind of play that or retroactively, you're just going to end up getting into a position where your opponent can actually make a comeback because you didn't actually make like the game winning Hydro Pump call that you could have went for. So I kind of been thinking about it more and more about this. And I'm like, okay, I kind of am okay with like having these a little bit lower accuracy moves. Granted, I don't want like all of them like the Bramblegas team. That one was an exception. But overall, like I think like why not have these tools, right? I had the same mindset actually when I switched from like Scald Kyogre to Origin Pulse Kyogre for the World Championship. Is because like having that extra like power of Origin Pulse just ends up really, really coming to play and putting on more pressure. And that's something I really do enjoy using. I think it's like really important for this Ogre Pond. I said that I had Power Whip on this team for the main reason of Woodhammer. The recoil actually screws you over sometimes because this Ogre Pond is designed to be bulky and you want to follow me redirect attacks. So you want the ability to KO Water Shifu and other Ogre Ponds that the Terra Water one specifically. So H can accomplish that, and Woodhammer, you get the recoil that screws you over. So I'm like, okay, 85 isn't the worst. 80, then I would maybe question it, but 85 is not that bad. And the only other like move I can miss is Bleak Wind. So I'm like, I'm okay with that trade-off, really.
I just think it was very scary on our end because when we saw you clicking Power Whip on another grass type, just like the Bramblegast, and it feels like, here it comes again. And I think if you I don't know the data on it, but if you look at all of the Ogre Pond that were in Peoria, Power Whip is probably not that high on the usage, right? It's probably just a Woodhammer and Grassy Glide and even Grass Ivy Cudgel or something. Like people probably don't want to risk that. So do you ever think about if you perform well with it? Because I imagine we will see more Power Whip Ogre Pond, the same that we'll see more Focus Energy Ogre Pond because of Paul Chua and Swords Dance Ogre Pond because of other players that brought it. Like, do you ever think if you perform well with the team, you think about the domino effect of like, oh well, I won with Power Whip. Now everybody else is going to adapt in the meta to my type of play style.
I mean, I really think it just comes down to teams as well as like your preference for it. Like, there's just people who don't want to miss, and I think that's very fair. Like, you run your Woodhammer, you run your Hornleech, which I think is fine. It's actually funny because Luca was actually originally running Power Whip with me as well because he also ran bulky Ogre Pond, and we didn't want the Woodhammer chip, so we both agreed on just using Power Up. He actually just like ended up switching to Hornleech, which was funny. I ended up keeping Power Up because I just think that it is worth the risk reward factor. So it's really just like players' tolerance on the risk reward factor, as well as like, is it right for your team? Like, I don't think like Power Up's always like optimal in every single situation, right? Like there'll be moments where Woodhammer's like okay to have, or like Hornleech recovery is like nice. Like on the Sword Stand sets, I think Hornleech is completely reasonable. But for me, I felt like on this set, like Power Up was the best option of choice for this specific team.
Talking about dominoes effects and what we can kind of see down the line, we do have our OHKO predictions for Sacramento happening. And clarify, you're not going, you're taking that one off, and we'll see you again in Toronto, right, Beck?
Yeah, I'm okay with Peoria and like watching on the sidelines here.
You already won. It's not like you have to go and like prove that you can win. You already won, right? You
I
can
mean,
take
winning
a
back-to-back regionals in a row and back-to-back weekends would be pretty
Back-to-back,
cool.
You know, it'd be good for the channel.
back
right?
back to back. There you go. That was really bad. I know that there's somebody watching and they're just like, oh, there's crickets on that one. My bad. But
That's Joe adding them in post-production, I bet.
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I
actually.
won't do that. Hey, well, first of all, we learned today actually when James and I were sitting here, we can add live generic sounds of like people clapping or people laughing and stuff like in the video. So maybe we'll just
Ooh,
have that figure ready the next time, just like
that
fake
sounds
clapping.
really dangerous. So dangerous. But all right, Sacramento predictions. The very first one, and this is a great question to be starting us off considering that domino effect. James, you just won with this Wellspring Ogre Pond. The question is the higher usage in day one, Hearthflame or Wellspring?
Now, just to remember, Peoria did have a higher day one Hearthflame usage and day two Wellspring. So, just for context for everybody listening, that's what is going to happen in Sacramento.
What would I predict? It would probably. I think it would actually probably stay the same. Realistically, I think Hearthflame is actually really good. I actually was like kind of underwhelmed by the Water Ogre Pond until like day two. Actually, for the most part, I was always like thinking having the Ogre Pond actually be able to resist grass moves would have been actually really nice for my team. But overall, like I think there's like a role for both, and I think like bulky Fire Ogre Pond would follow me, as well as like offensive ones like receive sword or setup ones like sword stands or just like straight up attacks like works a lot better in most cases. So I could see probably Fire Ogre Pond having more usage just because I think it has more utility right now in the format than Water Ogre Pond, which is more like just a bulky follow me one. I don't think Sword Stance Water Ogre Pond is that amazing just yet, but I think it could be, but I think it needs better teams than what we've seen previously.
I am going. So normally, I feel like, and I'd love to go into the data to kind of follow up on this. I feel like when a team with weather performs well, that will see quite a increase in that from even just the level of like the overall player base, not necessarily like the top players. But then if you look at statistically in an event and you look at the top player percentage versus everybody else, obviously you got to think about that everyone else. So since you had this Torn that had the rain dance, I feel like your team in general, that obviously there could be really high skill ceiling with it. I also feel like the floor, like you could go in there and you can click rain dance and you click surging strike. So you have this ogre pond, like you could click really easy things really easily and get wins. And I think just from that there would be that domino effect that will just see it go right above Hearthstone for day one. It's a Heart Flame. I don't know why I keep saying that. Especially too, it was like
You'll get there.
I'll get there. It was like 34 to 22%. So it was like significant, but I think it's doable. I think we'll see like I don't know, 30 and 28 or something.
I think that's fair. I think on my end, like this weekend really opened my eyes to Wellspring form because I was all in on the Hearthflame train because it's the Unga Bunga set. I raise my attack, I just click Ivy Cudgel, and I knock things out. And I think the Wellspring has shown how much utility it has with Follow Me for the Water Absorb and, all the other things that can kind of neutralize some of the matchups against the other Ogre Pond forms that I do think is going to be a lot stronger. However, in day one, we're counting everybody. That's all the players in Sacramento, which includes those Oonga Boonga players that might not make it to day two. And I think off of that reasoning, I would say for day one usage, I think Hearthflame will still be higher percent because it's easier to just slap onto a team where James is like, you kind of have to build proper teams around the Wellspring a little more difficult, you know?
I see. You're agreeing with Beck because Beck's the professional
Hey,
player out of us.
it's not a bad plan. You can't kill me for it.
I respect it. I know your game, you know? All right. Next question. Day one Flutter main usage. Is it going to be over or under 53%? It was, and this is which day? We're doing day one. Yeah. So day one was like the 52%, and it was actually lower, 51.3 to be exact. It was lower than Iron Hands, and it was still not number one on day two, like having Lando in first place. And it's kind of interesting because Flutter's been kind of slowly taking a dive for a while here.
I think it will probably be lower than like 52%. I think Flutter main is still like really good at what it does, but it's a little bit threatened more. Water Ogre Pond with the special defense boost, the Fire Ogre Pond that's a really good fairy resist. I think another problem that just like Flutter main has is like Grassy Glide spam. That's been very common, especially recently in the meta. And like Flutter main, like you don't really want to run like Terra Grass or Terra Water now. I think it was like a good call in like Regulation D to avoid Amoongus, but one of the things is like it's still not really that amazing of a defensive type right now because Ogre Ponds actually do kind of cover for that option. So I think right now it's a little bit difficult for Flutter main. I still think it's a really good mon, and like on the right teams, I think it can absolutely dominate. But it's just like a little bit harder. And yeah, I still think it's one of the best mons you could run, especially like Chi Flutter main, which actually ended up being more common than I expected at Peoria. It's just, I think it's a little bit harder to abuse because you got more options, I think, that can like A, resist or take attack, and B, like OHKO it, because Ivy Cudgel is just like a lot of damage.
Crazy. Crazy.
Too much damage, yeah.
Joe, you want to go next?
Sure, I'll go on this one. I think it's going to be over because I think there was a drastic drop from the last. I think it was like 71% to 51%, and I don't think people prepare for that. And I think James is giving a lot of great examples as to why it has fallen so significantly. But I still think Flutter main is such a crutch sometimes for for the team builder in VGC because it does its job, its specific job, so well. And I really do. I know Sierra and I have talked about the speed booster Icy Wind set that's really been popping up as in more popularity in Regulation E compared to prior formats. And people might go away from like the nuke button Terra Fairy choice specs Moonblast Flutter main and more to this supportive set, or maybe try to bring back the Paris Song set and things like that. But overall, I do think it is still a really strong Pokemon, and I would be surprised if it stays, under 53% in Sacramento.
See, I think I'm gonna do the under. I don't think it's gonna have a fall from grace. I don't think it's gonna be anything too crazy under. But you're talking about this speed boosting Flutter that we get to see with Icy Wind. I feel like that is a little susceptible to literally just a torn tailwind and just blow it up. I mean, we have this dynamic speed. If the Flutter's on the field, it's just going to get boomed. And I think, too, there was enough introduction of good Pokemon in Regulation E that's kind of, yes, it's an easy crutch in the team builder, but I feel like it's kind of getting to the point where, oh, man, which one do I put? To where it could be pretty close. Plus, if Golden Go is going to be pretty good right now, being able to set up and stuff like that, that's something that normally shoots the Flutter usage down as well. So it's kind of just like, there's enough factors. It's kind of getting hit from all angles here. So it's just like, I think it'll continue to stay down. And I'm not opposed to it. Flutter, like a 71% usage Pokemon, I think was just way too much. I'm okay with this,
Oh, hey, just using what James's answer was,
Hey, it's the smart answer, right?
How's it feel? Yeah. No, just kidding.
Also, I think it's since it's a West Coast regional, like every time like East Coast regional, it seems like we see like normal meta stuff like become more dominant. But when you head towards the West from the East Coast, you get like a lot of more stranger teams, like creative, strange, something you would just not expect. So that's also another reason why I'm saying the Flurry might be a bit lower.
I just hope the strange, unusual teams do a little better. Okay, or at least do a little better on broadcast. Because obviously there was quite a few interesting teams that were able to make runs. Every single time, James, every single time we featured one of those teams on broadcast, they got slaughtered.
Yeah,
It
2
was
0.
so unfortunate every time. Or like this,
But they're like,
like
oh, let's put this guy. He's got Pheasantipity, and then gets 2-0'd and doesn't bring Pheasantipity in either games. And then afterwards tells Sierra, I probably should have brought Pheasantipity. And we're like, oh, you think?
Wow,
or like
you should have broadcasted Joe versus Pheasantipity when he lost to it.
yeah.
We almost, that's a story for a different day. We almost did, but then we ended up pulling up another match. And then, of course, the next round we had him come on because he beat Joe. Like, it essentially didn't even matter what the other polls were for that round, because it's like, this guy just slayed Joe Ugarte with a Pheasantipity. We have to have him on the stream.
Yeah, as the way when the decision was made that wasn't going to be the pulled match, Scott was like, "If this guy beats Joe, I want him next round."
Yeah.
And and that's exactly how it happened. And another person that like whenever he was on stream, it didn't go well. I felt so bad. Justin Knox, this Okie Dogie, he's got the Blood Moon Ursaluna, it's got this Clefairy, and then both times he got streamed. I guess the same person, but the matchup was just absolutely terrible. So it's like, what can he? It's not even his fault at that point. It's not like he played poorly. It's not like it's a bad team. No, like this. Sometimes you just go up against those matchups that are not great for you. And I felt so bad, dude.
Poor Okie Dogie. What do you think of the Loyal 3, James?
I think Mookie Dory would have been all right if they gave it like a 111 speed tier. Just because like it could actually dress an Ogerpon. The fact that it's slower than Ogerpon makes it like not useful really. If it did, it would have actually been like pretty decent with its stats, but like just being slower and just getting drafted by knocked out is like not great for it at all. There's also like Pheasantipity, I think could have had a bit of potential, but I think it probably needed like Draining Kiss in its arsenal, maybe like or Technician as his ability instead. I think it could have had some really cool Technician ability like Icy Wind combos as well, but just not enough. And then Okidoki is probably like one of the better of the three, but it's just like when you have a bulky fighting type, like Iron Hands is probably going to be your like number one pick. Otherwise, you're just going to go into Urshifu as your offensive fighting type, and it's just like really hard to contest. Sure, it's neutral to Fairy, but like it doesn't have Fake Out. If it had Fake Out, maybe it would probably be like actually like able to compete with Iron Hands, but its move pool isn't like that great. Like Bulk Up Leftovers isn't too bad under screens, but that's probably like the best set I'd say.
Yeah, I was a little underwhelmed with Okie Dokie. I just felt like it's supposed to be bulky, but like even just when you're taking a super effective hit on something, not getting KO. I don't know. I was a little underwhelmed, but back to our usage. We're not talking about the Loyal 3 on this one. The higher day 2 usage, Heatran or Chi-Yu? Interesting.
I would probably give. So Heatran's been rising up more recently. Like the double grassy glide spam actually used to run like King Gambit. They replaced with Heatran. Heatran, I think, is like a really decent mon right now. But I'd probably give this to Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu has actually was surprised me at Peoria just because of like how much it was used. There were a lot more Chi-Yus than I would have expected on the field, and I just can't see it like changing at least for now.
Before you lock in your answer, I will give you the context that day 2 usage, Chi-Yu was 29%, Heatran was 17%, in comparison to day 1, where Chi-Yu was 18% and Heatran was 16%.
Are you asking for day 1 or day 2?
We're asking for day 2.
We're asking
so Peoria
for day 2.
Showed that the field versus the top, the day 2 players was significantly Chi-Yu favored, but who knows with how Heatran performed this weekend if more Heatran players are going to make day 2.
That sounds like a Heatran pilled answer over there, Joe.
I feel like I don't even need to give the answer. Heatran's my boy. Like, we know what the answer is,
I think the Chi-Yu's outplays the Heatran as well, like for the most part. Like I'm pretty sure like Heatran did make top 4, but Chi-Yu also made top 4 as well. And then I think there were more Chi-Yus if I'm not mistaken. So I'd probably still lean towards Chi-Yu.
Yeah, I think overall, I think maybe like if we're looking at which one's gonna make the furthest run, then I think this team with Heatran could be it. But if we're looking at highest usage on day 2, then I'm gonna be picking Chi just because I think too, still with the Treasures of Ruined, that they're just they can be so strong that it kind of can complete a team, whereas Heatran sometimes doesn't. So not the greatest reasoning on that, but that one kind of has me a little torn, So
Nice potential spoiler for our next question being a
I
little
know, I was
torn,
about to say.
Yeah.
What's also could be a little torn is how many of them in our top 8. Haha. Our next question. How many
That's
Wait,
the
did,
segue
but,
queen right there.
but Joe didn't even answer what
Oh,
he
all right.
thought it
Well,
was.
then I'll just say. So I think it's Heatran.
Oh,
I
it's Heatran.
love Heatran. I was talking with Scott about him all weekend. Like, all right, fine. Terra Grass is dead because of Mold Breaker on Hearthflame. That's fine. But now this Terra Fairy set is cracked. I love it. I think it's just a really strong Pokemon. It's kind of like it's not a team you build, or it's not. Excuse me, it's not a Pokemon you build a team around, right? It's a Pokemon that kind of finalizes a team, where maybe Chi-Yu is more team building centric of a core Pokemon, so that might lead to a higher thing. But I think on day 2, a lot of times those are the better players remaining, right? And I'm hoping that in Sacramento, hopefully these last 2 events of Pittsburgh and Peoria, where Heatran has actually performed really well on stream, at least, that people might be influenced by. So that's why. But the other real answer, James, is just because Heatran's my boy. We go back a long time, so I got to support him.
I might just be biased, but I think I faced like 7 rounds of Chi-Yu and 0 of Heatran. I don't think I played a single Heatran that tournament. So yeah.
Okay.
So to be fair, you're also like speed running your way through the game, and so you just slaughtered 7 Chi-Yus and you didn't slaughter a single Heatran.
I slaughtered 6. My one loss had a Chi-Yu.
I was gonna ask because you were 13-1. What was that one loss?
I lost to Nora. Last name is back in my head. I can't remember, but
Bowman?
Yeah, Nora Bowman. Yeah, and she was running She kind of ran like a similar team to Jeremy Parson. It was, I think, the exact same 6 actually, and the only difference was it was like Terra Ghost, Terra Blast, Chi-Yu, and I'm not really used to the Terra Ghost, Terra Blast set. But I didn't realize like how much damage it did. Like it could OHKO like Water Shifu like immediately off the bat, as well as like the iron like do half to Iron Hands. So that ended up throwing me for a loop, and that's something I discovered about the team like early on.
Shout out to Nora. She's the only person that beat you all weekend. That's like a second place feeling, kind of, right?
Yeah, she played well. She did play well.
And then that is top. She ended up getting 22nd place too, so that is 60 championship points. So not shabby in that regards either. But yeah, and now while I was trying to so rudely skip over Joe's answer, I'll now get to our question number 4. How many Torn will be in top 8 in Peoria? I thought this one was kind of fitting considering we are talking to the Torn connoisseur here on the podcast. There's 2 in top 8 for record. Or 3.
I think 3, yeah.
3, yeah. 3 at top 8 for Peoria.
I think 3 would also make sense for Sacramento. I don't think Torn is like an absolute necessity on a team. There's obviously like Trick Room teams. There's like very heavy priority teams. So I think 2 to 3 would make the most sense to me, where I think Torn is still like a really good mod. I think maybe it picks up more usage in like the day 1 and day 2 stats, just because like it's, I think, a mod again that like people were sleeping on, like dropped it for like really no reason, but it's still like really solid. It's also like good because it's one of the Pokemon that can actually outspeed Ogerpon and threaten him with Bleak Wind Storm. So that's like a big one. So I would say 2 to 3 makes sense. It's not a necessity, but it's a really good mod.
Are we landing on 2 or are we landing on 3? Just so I know which other one that I'm picking up for an answer here.
Yeah, because this one doesn't make sense to give the same answer. The other ones make sense, but this one we should have 3 different answers for.
I'd probably go with 3. I think 3 is fair.
All right, well then I'm gonna pick 2 because I don't think 4 is gonna be it. We're Price is Righting this one. It's just one of those Pokemon that there'll always be a place. It's just whether we're gonna see it in the actual pool itself. So there is really no basis beyond it other than I have to pick a 2 or a 4. So 2.
being analytical over there. I respect it, Sierra. So I guess I will begrudgingly select 4 because I don't think it'll be 1, but I can pretend to have a statistical reasoning for it, and that's because I didn't even say before, but I actually won the predictions last week with Daz for Pittsburgh, and the one that put it over for me, I think I did pretty well actually. We can go over those later. But the one that did it was how many Ogerpon in top 8, and as we all know, there were 8 this weekend. But Sierra said 6, Adam said 5, and so my thought was like, well, I'm going to go 7, and then there were 8, so I was actually the closest on that one. So I'm going to use the same strategy since it worked out for me in Pittsburgh predictions or Peoria predictions. Here in Sacramento, I'll say 4 Torn in Top Cut.
Good answer. Good answer.
Thank you.
Top analysis over here. Yeah, it's a good stuff. All right. And this last one, which this makes it a little bit easier since you're not going, James.
This is why I asked if you were going to Sacramento.
Yeah.
So I was just going to pick you.
Our final question is always just who is going to win the entire event? Who is going to win Sacramento? And then for anyone watching for context, for myself and Joe Brown, we do have a cooldown on players that we're allowed to select. I cannot select Ugarte or James Evans. Joe Brown, you can't select
Justin and Joe.
No, because Justin didn't get to go to the event.
No, that was still my official prediction.
You're okay. So you can't pick Justin Burns and he can't pick Ugarte. So those will be from our answers.
We'll give James. You get the whole field. You get to choose first.
Yeah.
Anybody you're thinking.
It would be between 2, and there are a few others I could name, but like I don't know if they're going. So I would probably just lean towards Riley. Like Riley Factura, like he's going. Let's hope he's not burnt out. But like the man literally got first in top 8, so like why not? Hey, do you want him? Like I have the second one I could explain if you want.
No, wait, we have to see what Sierra's would have been first. Hold on. So Sierra, who are you leaning towards? Who are you thinking?
Well, I was also gonna pick Riley.
Okay, all right, then Joe.
But Beck is our guest, so Beck does get to pick first.
James, you can have Riley. Go right ahead.
You can have him and then just like say who else you're thinking because there's a discussion. But like you don't have to give up your pick because
don't be such a good guy, James. You know you're trying to win over here.
Like I think both of them have like a really good odds of winning. So regardless, like
who's
the other choice?
Gavin Michaels.
Okay.
I believe he's going, right? I would imagine so.
It's West Coast. He's got to show up.
That would be my guess.
No, I think that'd be a good guess.
The only question is like, do we know if Emilio's going? I know he's like not feeling it, right? Like
I literally talked to him, and he's too busy playing Fire Emblem at the moment.
Respect, Emilio. Let's. I want to talk to Emilio about Fire Emblem because I absolutely love the series. So I would love to.
Do you talk to Steven? You should talk to Steven about Fire Emblem.
We've talked in the past, yeah, but not recently about it. Yeah, did I ever show you, or I don't know if you saw my tweets about the Fire Emblem swag I picked up in Japan? I
think I did see it.
I got FE 1 through 4 in the Japanese version, like NES, SNES originals, and then I got the GBA one, 6, 7, 8, all Japanese like inbox. And I picked those up in Japan, so they were pretty. I'm a big Fire Emblem fan. But
yeah, I need to catch up. I actually have been trying. I actually should complete a Fire Emblem game. I've never completed it, but I played like 5 of them.
Oh, James, you're killing me. We could have so many good conversations about Fire Emblem.
And I still want to pick up whatever the recent one on the Switch was, which I haven't
engaged.
But I should probably complete. I should probably complete the one I enjoyed the most, which was Awakening, and that was the one that got me into the Fire Emblem scene.
Good answer. Good. I love Awakening. So, all right, let's get back to our predictions here. We got to think here because I've
never played Fire Emblem.
Amelia,
so
you can't talk about Fire Emblem.
That. Yeah.
So we know Emilio's not coming now.
Like, if Amelia was going, that would have been my pick, literally. Like, you know,
exactly.
You know?
So we'd be fighting over here over Amelia.
Who else are West Coast besides Gavin and Riley? Because like we know Len isn't playing,
Alberto,
right? So Alberto is another guess. There's so many great players.
I wish I knew everyone that was going.
I don't know if Gio was going.
So
He's
far.
in California, but
it's funny. You guys can't pick Joe Ugarte.
No, I know.
Nope.
See, that's why we have the cooldown, James. Because every week we would just keep going back and forth between who gets to pick.
It's actually funny because this West Coast Regional has so many players, and I would have never expected based off like the previous West Coast Regional numbers. Like it has like over 400, and like I can't even remember. Like I think they were like 300 or even under 300 for whatever the one Emilio won.
Yeah.
Fresno. Yeah.
Do you know if Aaron Zhang is going? I'm just trying to think out
Oh,
loud.
I actually do know the answer, and unfortunately, he is not going.
All right, then I'm locking in Alberto. I'm picking Alberto to win this. He's got like 24 top cuts in his career. Let's make it 25, and let's give him that 4th regional to tie James now in regional wins.
Oh my goodness. All right. Do we know if I don't think Tang's going, is he? Because he's more
No,
doing
Tang is East Coast.
stuff.
Tang is East Coast.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's also what's difficult is like knowing who's traveling, especially too since it's Peoria into Sacramento, kind of.
Yeah, most people probably choose one of them to go to of the two, just like
Yeah.
James. All right, while Sierra's taking, let me ask you about the 4 regionals also, James, because we didn't really get to talk about this. So you've essentially put yourself into like rarefied air of VGC history, right? Because there's Riley at 5, you've tied Aaron, so Riley at 5, Paul Chu at 6, and Wolf Glick at 7 now, right? So you have 4 regional titles, an international championship for LAIC, 2 world's top 4s back-to-back world championships. Like, you're kind of building a resume to put yourself in that contention of, where do you think you're top 10 VGC trainers of all time? Because your resume is kind of saying it might be close.
It's funny because a lot of people argue this, and I'd probably say no, and mainly because I usually value like the world's win specifically a lot, and there's obviously like one of the things about the list is there are a lot of strong players in Japan too, but we just never get to see like their accomplishments because they only get like 2 events really, which is like nationals that we see. Maybe like we can see the online cups, but like it's really hard to find results on that. And then obviously the world championship. So I feel like there's probably like a lot of strong Japanese players that like aren't even considered for like some of the top best.
Okay, that's the humble answer. That's the right answer. You don't get yourself in hot water. But I think you should give yourself some credit, James, because you're a pretty damn good player to be able to have all these accomplishments.
Nice drum roll. I have locked in my answer over here.
You mean you DM Joe asking who's going?
No!
Oh my god!
Whoa!
The Leafs?
That would have been smart, though. That would have been smart. But no, I was thinking more, too, about Gavin Michaels. And just considering, like, so he won OCIC with a rain team. He's, like, he does the killer with these rain teams. And then because of that and the fact that rain can actually be good and there is, like, a lot of tools right now, I feel like enough of that is in his favor to where it's like, all right, you know what? There's the West Coast buff. There's the rain buff. Like, I'll give it to you, Oh,
I think it's
say Gavin.
Definitely fair.
Wait, you guys both had the option to pick Gavin? I thought you guys were really thinking like, I'm not going to pick Gavin because he said it at that rate.
No, you can, no, she can have Gavin. It's fine.
Unless
I'm fine with Alberto.
If I thought you were deciding Riley.
No,
if
I
you
was
don't want
like,
Riley, we are flipping a coin, James. Because
No,
I will take Riley, but I just felt like that Joe. I thought you would have just stolen immediately then at that rate.
No, I thought Alberto's a fun answer too. He's obviously an incredible player and on the West Coast. So I think all 3 of our answers have pretty good chances, right? Every time we pick all these players, we're not going to pick someone that we don't think has a chance to take the whole regional down. So
yeah, I can't wait until I get I'm competing and then I'm picking myself. So
ooh, the confidence,
double point. That's how you have to do it. That's how you have to do it.
And then you win the regional, and I'm like, now remember, Sierra, you're on a 3-event cooldown. You can't pick yourself.
Can't pick myself.
Well, that would mean either Sliverwing wins a regional, or like she got a team from Joe, or like actually actually used an actual team.
I think it's gonna be a real team. I don't think it's gonna be Slitherwing.
It probably won't be Slitherwing. I'll be honest with that. But no, I'm actually trying to do a bit more of my team building now. So that is going probably as well as you would expect it to, as someone who has been constantly fed teams from one of the top players and has never had to team build before. But I'm learning, okay?
It sounds like you're saying that people shouldn't use the academy to get team building coaching, is what you're saying.
The drama.
Well, he doesn't coach me on the teams. He just gives me the finished paste. So there's the difference. The teams are good.
That's not a good coach, though.
He's not coaching me.
I've gotten the X9 Academy coaching before. Help me with some of my team building. I will stay. If Sierra doesn't have the guts to defend the X9 Academy, I will.
How was I not defend? Bro, no. This is slanderous.
Yeah, me and James are on the same wavelength here. We get it.
Unreal.
Wait, I do want to ask, because we're done with the predictions here. So I do want to ask James, because you have 4 regional titles. Which of those 4 titles, and I have a follow-up after that, is your favorite regional? Like, that was the most, when I was on the top of my game, the best in the world, that regional title, I feel like I was the best at in that time.
I think it would probably be, that's kind of tough because Toronto first regional win, I felt like I was playing really well. Like, all the teams that I expected and I practiced for specifically showed up in my top cut like bracket, and I ended up doing really well. This event, obviously, like, I went 16-1 in sets, and I think 33-8 in games. I think I'd give my answer to probably my second regional win, which was Roanoke 2019. I went 6-1, and I think there's like a specific history with that because that was the week right after LIC, and that was when I lost to Ashton in finals. I played Ashton in the last round of Swiss for the winning in, and that was a rematch, and I ended up beating him, but also like had a really dominant top cut. I didn't drop a single game in top cut either. And
was that the Excelgor team in Roanoke?
No, I didn't win with Excelgor in Roanoke. I got top 4 at a regional with it and won LIC with Excelgor, but no, I was just running it back with Torn-Ogre, but with like a few slight changes. I think my regional, win record wise, like game wise, was 19 wins, 3 losses throughout that entire tournament for Roanoke 2019. So that's probably where I felt like I probably played the best, and that was like my last event in Suns here, so it felt like I was ending off on a good note there.
I respect it. I think for me personally, my favorite regional of yours is Toronto, because that was a critical hit streak. Well, Roanoke was also, but I remember we went over the border. We had so many fun times in Toronto, and your finals match against Rajan with your Komodo and Clefairy, and you both had Gengar too. So it was like a lot of like really scary scenarios back and forth, and like to this day, that's one of my favorite matches I've ever casted, because that entire game 3, like, you had Tapu Bulu, he had Virizion, you had Spotlight, Clefairy, like, there's just so
the Spotlight
many
moments, one of my favorites.
moments. Like, that's to this day one of my favorite regional finals I've ever got the pleasure to cast. So, like, I was hoping you'd say Toronto, but I respect the Roanoke.
I like Toronto a lot. The Spotlight play was one of my favorites. I think it would have probably been like a top if I like actually won that game. I kind of like didn't play the next couple turns optimally. I think I got like the turn 1 and turn 2 correct, but like I didn't do the rest there. And then turn 3, like finding the win con of switching out the +6 Azumarill was probably one of my favorite plays that I've made.
Yeah, Sierra, he set up belly drum Azumarill and switched out. Like, nobody has the confidence in VGC to ever make a play like that, but James did. That was just crazy.
Kudos there. I see people hesitate to switch out after setting up a swords dance.
Yeah.
Like, all right. And then, Jerome, you said you had one more question.
Well, no, that was a follow-up.
Before we get into our question.
Was the follow-up? I was hoping you were going to say Toronto, and then I could have. I'm not the segue queen like Sierra, so I didn't have a natural segue into it.
Okay.
You know?
I was just making sure, because once we get into the final question of the day, which is our question of the week, that's when we're wrapping things up. So this is your chance if you're like, oh my gosh.
No, I did want to say, because I told James before in our Discord conversation that my mom says thank you for wishing her a happy birthday. And she actually knows who you are. Like, when I came home for my flight, she was like, James won, I know him. And, you know, because obviously she's watched the streams forever. We're the same region. So she'd probably be watching us all the Liberty Garden days. So she was happy that you won that regional.
The fact that she watches your casting is heartwarming.
That's super sweet.
I do.
All right, our last part of our day. This is our question of the week. This one is coming over from Twitter/X, whatever y'all want to call it. And we're already getting the Halloween names going on. So this question's coming out from Hannoween. Very nice. Love it. Respect. asking what's a casting day look like for you, prep, call time, etc. And I think this is really fun because then having James here as well, we can get another perspective in like what the prep day is looking like for a player actually going to compete and win an event. So I think that's kind of fun. So who wants to go first on this one?
I
That's
think it
tough.
should be
I
one
think it's-
caster into me into another caster.
All right, I'll
Right.
take the bullet. I was going to say James should go first because he has to wake up a lot earlier than we do at the regionals. But so we'll go over different factors. Regionals, our regionals now start in round 3, so it's roughly around 11 a.m. right, depending on the event, depending on how fast the event starts around, and we don't have to get there till an hour before the show starts. That's when our pre-show and planning and everything like that
James,
is. So
why are you shaking your
James
head at
is
this
already-
one?
James is already-
biggest company in the world, and we can't even get the budget for all the rounds to be streamed. Hiya.
James is already like knee deep into round 2, and we're just walking in with our coffee. You know what I mean? So that's usually how it is. We have a rehearsal technically on Friday for anyone whose flights get in early enough before the venue closes to speak with our producers, speak with the directors, look over new graphics, make sure our predictions for our Pokemon that we submitted for the week are correct and everything like that. But we don't do too much on the rehearsal day. Actually, we lost James real quick. What happened? Do you see him, Sierra, or no?
I do not.
All right. Well, we'll see if he comes back. If he doesn't, we're at the end of the episode anyway, so he can like message us our.
Well,
thing.
we could also you
Yeah.
could also get him back and do a little.
Wait a second. Hold on. I think
There
he's back.
Okay, I don't know why it just randomly it gave me an error and kicked me for some
Really?
reason.
Okay. Don't
Yeah.
worry. You didn't miss anything. We promise. So don't worry about that. James is still here. So our day starts 2 hours later than theirs. Don't have to be there till 10. Pre-show, all that stuff. I would say most of our prep is done like before an event, right? To who we're working with, talking who our partners and logistics on how we want to approach certain topics and certain matches and things. And then once the event starts, you kind of don't want to waste any brain power, like, because you got to keep it all for what you want to say during a match. So I don't think we do too much prepping in the moment as rounds are going on, because it's just kind of, you don't want to waste the brain power.
What about your morning routine? Because I know you have a lot of hair to deal with.
Yeah.
Like you gotta style
So,
your hair. Like
I don't have a lot of hair to deal with, but I do have
Now
one
with the beard. Oh,
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'll trim up I trimmed the lower part here before, like when I get there. You know, the one thing we do actually, Sierra sees this in the Discord, is the commentary hype up song of the day, and it's very important to me. And the other casters are starting to pick up on it. Is we play just a song to get you in the zone, so you can be in the venue to listen, in your hotel room, getting ready, putting on your suit and everything like that. But I submit every day one song that I'm currently listening to in my Spotify or YouTube playlist or whatever that is getting me pumped in the morning to get excited to cast. So that's my one like tradition I have, is in the mornings for casting.
I only listen to those about half the time. I apologize.
That's fine. That's
It depends on the morning, frankly. But
Yeah. Well, did you listen to the Stitch one this weekend? Out of respect for
did
the
not.
Stitch suite? Oh, brutal.
No, I did not. Well, I didn't think it was a real commentary hype up song because you only sent that song because I was like staying in room 626. So, and then I made the mistake of saying what my room number was. So there's like little Stitch. Oh my god. So
No. Well, that's a great song anyway. So,
fair.
James,
As a-
James, what's your player routine then?
As someone who has to get there a lot
Way
earlier.
It varies a lot, and I mean a lot, because I've been always trying to, like, as a competitor, you're always trying to figure out a new thing that can give you like that edge against other competitors. So by optimizing your morning routine, it can really set you up for the day. So I've tried a lot of different things. I think one thing that made me really successful at the London World Championship 2022 was I actually did some meditation in the morning before like both days of Worlds, and that actually ended up helping me tremendously. I haven't really done it as much since, but there's still some other things that I do incorporate time. Cold shower is also like pretty nice. Something I tried for Peoria actually, which has scientific studies, was not actually using my cell phone for the first 60 to 90 minutes of the day. And I literally did not do anything with my cell phone, no electronics whatsoever. So like woke up decently early, just waited for everyone else, was just like chilling pretty much for the most part, thinking slightly about matchups, but that's really it. And then like when I got to the venue, I played a few warm up games, which is also something I think a lot of players don't do, is like warm up. Like for a lot of esports, you'll like see like controllers, they'll just be like warming up. I think VGC, they don't really warm up the brain. I like to warm my brain up with like a game or three or a game or two. Otherwise, like it's going to be round one, and obviously you don't want to like misplay in your round one. So something I like to do is just like warm up before the actual tournament. But yeah, that was something I did specifically for Peoria, and I'll probably be like experimenting throughout and trying new things, and then figuring out what I think is like the most ideal morning strategy for like optimal performance.
It's actually really insightful because, like, even when like I competed, it's not that I ever competed at the level you did, but like I was like, all right, I'm rolling out of bed at the last second, like make sure I got everything, run to the venue and skip eating and like chug a coffee, like so it's actually really cool to hear like the different like how methodical it is for you to be having like a good start to your day.
Yeah, I think Leffen also talked about this a couple of years ago, and I thought about it too. Like when you have like so many players at playing at the highest level, I think those micro differences can be like the big difference makers. And for instance, that could really be health wise, like what your nutrition is, just all those like mini factors can actually come into play. So always trying to figure out how to actually improve so that I'm at my best performance possible.
I think I definitely need to try to not use my phone for the first 60 minutes when I wake up, because that's something I have a really bad problem with. So maybe you're inspiring me, James, to try something new.
For myself, even though I don't have to obviously get there till a bit later, because I am a woman and the routines take a little bit longer, I'll get up at a pretty decent time. I do have to have the mandatory just lay in bed and do like nothing for 30 minutes, so I kind of have to incorporate that into like my wake up routine. Normally though, when I get up at home, I get up around 8, 9 a.m. anyway. So realistically, if we have a 10 o'clock call time and I normally get up at 8, not really that bad. Then for regionals, we don't actually have a hair and makeup artist, so everybody has to do their own. So I do have to account extra time for that. Probably takes about 30 minutes to do my makeup. Hair takes anywhere from 10 minutes to 40 minutes. It really just depends on how picky it is that day and how ambitious I'm being.
And if you're
And
putting
then
things like you did on
the little tatsugis in my hair,
Yeah.
yeah. So a lot of the time used to be for curling my hair, but like I got these sleep-in heatless curlers, and that's was amazing. So yay, technology. But while doing that, I'll be listening to music all morning. I'll chug like a liter of water and then I'll drink an energy drink. And normally the energy drink is drank to completion so I can brush my teeth as the last thing before I go. Which then when I roll up to the venue, I'm very apologetic to everyone who has to deal with me in the mornings because I am already all wired up. I have the energy. I'm going to production. I'm like, this is what I want to do today. And I'm just a little much sometimes. So it's,
Can't confirm.
yeah. No, I'm definitely probably the most annoying backstage to be starting things off. But the last couple events too, I've been hosting as opposed to casting. So when I show up, I have to go to our producer and get our cue cards for the day. We then do a little rehearsal, obviously, in the lounge to be kicking off the day. So I'll have all the notes. I normally have to go and talk with them about moving some things around or slight edits to things and get all mic'd up and stuff as well. So I have a mic on me at all time and I have a little in-ear piece in. So I can actually listen to the game all around the venue all day because I have my in-ear, which is nice. And then the rest of the day is literally just doing my interviews and stuff. So I'll actually be prepping throughout the day. I sit there with my iPad and I have my notes on every single match. Every single match, I have interview notes prepped for each player. I have planning segments. So it's a lot more exhaustive than if you're actually just casting an event. Like you have to be on while you're casting, but like Joe said, you don't really have to be prepping during. You do all that beforehand, where I can only do so much beforehand.
Yeah, the analyst role is way more intensive because you essentially don't get a break because you can't just walk away and go hang out at the vendors and buy something, because you still have to watch every match because you have to be ready to interview the person that wins each round. Where, say, like a match that Rose and Gabby were casting, like I was able to walk away, go to the bathroom, do something else, because I didn't need to know what happened in that match right away. I didn't need to be on the uptake. I would be informed later if anything crazy happened.
Yeah, and then even when there's like a downtime of broadcast, it's the analyst's job to fill that. So then I'm the one that's running to the lounge and pulling casters and like, this is the segment we're running. This is what we're doing now. And a lot of those things too is like what we come up with, not what we're told. So like, for example, when there was a delay at one point, I'm like, okay, we're grabbing the day 1 and day 2 usage stats. We're going to be having a meta breakdown. Scott, Joe, get in the lounge right now. This is the segment that we're running that I went and had pitched beforehand. So it's a lot. It's fun, but it's a lot.
I'm just curious, as casters and hosts, do you do any like voice warm-ups or anything specifically for your voice? Because obviously you are casting all day or you're talking for most of the day. So I remember, like, Joe, you might remember, but we did some locals in the past. And I remember, like, if I am really tired, like my voice is like 2 tones deeper. So I was wondering, like, if you need to warm up your voices at all, or if you're just like ready to go at that point.
I don't know what everyone else does. I warm up my voice before every broadcast. If I'm not doing it when I'm getting ready in the morning, I'll do my awkward run around and my vocal warm-ups at the venue, which is super embarrassing. I hate it. But I do every single morning, like every broadcast.
So I probably should. I don't. I've never really been trained in, like, keeping my voice safe, and obviously it's the most important skill you have as a caster, right? Is your ability to speak. So I should probably work on that. But I will say, I remember the first time Sierra and I cast together with NAIC, 2022. Like, she just went into it. Her vocal, and she's like, Peter picked the pepper, blah, 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 just like in the middle as we're on the desk, and I'm like, nobody prepared me for anything. Like, Sierra didn't say, hey, do you mind if I just do little vocal warm-ups right now? She's just going in on all this alliteration, getting her voice ready. And I'm like, well, now I look like the loser because I'm not preparing my voice, right? I'm not warming. I'm not singing like do, re, mi, or anything to work on my voice. So Sierra definitely puts way more work into that than I do.
I also was like, I've seen a vocal coach and I've like gotten trained on that a little bit too. So there's like that inherent different like experiences. Because like when you go into broadcasting, nobody tells you, hey, you got to do this. But I went to a clinic and they're like, if you don't warm up your voice, you are screwed. So it's a little ingrained in you at that point. We'll run you through some vocal exercises for next event. All right.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Oh wait,
no
hold on. So you're promoting this academy, but not the X-Line Academy?
I didn't drop in. All right, we're ending it on. I cannot take this slander anymore. We're ending this here. James, you've taken your shots, that's for sure. Do you have any more last wholesome words on the podcast?
Otherwise, shout outs to all the staff at Peoria. Like, literally, I think the first 2 regionals I did attend in North America have been really smooth. So like, it's been really nice. Like, I know that everyone behind the scenes, you obviously see the players if you're watching on stream or when you're attending defense, like you as a player, you as a spectator, like, will mainly focus on the players. But really, there's a bunch of people who are amazing that are just working behind the scenes and they don't really get enough shout outs. So obviously you guys as the casters, there's obviously like production staff for the streams. There's also like cleanup crew, all of those different factors. Like, you guys do a fantastic job.
Thank you, James.
Such a wholesome ending.
You do a great job winning every game.
I would like to win every game.
Except for one. Shout out to Nora being the James Beck Slayer,
the Beck Slayer. Oh my goodness. But Beck, thanks again so much for joining us. And anyone who's made it to this point in the episode, appreciate you so much. Again, make sure to be checking out the Discord if you want to be joining in to be chatting about the Pokemon events, team build with friends, trying to build a little bit of community over there. It's going to be fantastic. For anyone who is, of course, traveling to Sacramento, safe travels. Hope to see you there. Best of luck at the event. from your OHKO crew, and from James Baek. Everybody, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in.